I remember the first time I sat down with a wealthy man. He wasn't the kind of man who bragged about what he owned or showed off flashy jewelry. He had a soft smile, a calm, steady voice, and a way of looking directly into your eyes that felt like he was quietly flipping through the pages of your entire life story. I thought surely this man would reveal some magical shortcut, that the real secret to wealth was either being born into the right family, having a rich uncle somewhere, or stumbling across a bag of gold under your bed one lucky morning. But instead he leaned in, lowered his voice like he was about to let me in on something truly rare, and said, "Jim, the rich have habits, and most of them are never taught in school. Not because they're hidden behind some locked door, but because even the teachers never learned them." That one line lodged itself deep in my mind. In that moment I thought, now that's interesting, because it meant wealth wasn't just about what you had, it was about what you did day in and day out, without even realizing it. See, schools are wonderful for giving you the basics: how to read a novel, how to write an essay, and how to calculate the square root of some enormous number you'll never actually use again. They train you to pass tests, follow schedules, and prepare for a life inside a structured system. But if you want to live a life of real financial freedom, where you have choices instead of restrictions, options instead of obligations, you need a completely different set of lessons. These lessons aren't written on the chalkboard, they don't fit neatly into a syllabus, and there's no end-of-term exam for them. They are habits, ways of thinking and living that rich people breathe in and out daily without having to be reminded. They've practiced them so long that they're part of their identity, and the truth is anyone can learn them. But first you have to know they exist. The first habit, they value their time like gold dust, because to them time is far more precious than gold. When I was young, I treated time like it was an endless supply. If I wasted a few hours here scrolling through distractions, or a few days there caught up in meaningless activities, I thought, no problem, I'll make it up later. But here's the hard truth: there is no making up time. You can lose $1 today and earn 10 tomorrow, but lose an hour and it's gone forever, like water spilled on the desert sand. The rich understand this in their bones. They guard their hours the way a jeweler guards diamonds. They choose to spend time only on activities that move them forward, building, learning, growing, not drowning in endless distractions. That doesn't mean they never relax. The wealthy still watch movies, take vacations, laugh with friends. But you'll never catch them wasting days on activities that bring no return, financially, emotionally, or personally. Inner radar is always tuned to one question: is this helping my vision? If not, they know how to politely but firmly step away. That's why when you call a rich person at noon on a Tuesday to chat for an hour, they're probably deep in work that matters, because they know life rewards those who respect the clock. The second habit, they make money work for them instead of spending their lives working for money. When I was younger, I thought the only way to earn a living was to trade my time for a paycheck, an hour of my life for a certain number of dollars. That's what I saw everyone around me doing. Then one day a mentor looked me in the eye and said, "Jim, that's fine for a start, but if you want true freedom, you have to learn how to make money work for you, not the other way around." That means investing. That means putting your dollars into vehicles that multiply while you're asleep, while you're on vacation, or while you're spending time with your family. The school system rarely talks about that, probably because most teachers were never taught it themselves. And here's the big shift. The wealthy don't see money as something to simply spend, they see it as something to plant. Each dollar is a seed that, if placed in the right soil, can grow into a tree that produces fruit for years, maybe even generations. Most people eat their seeds, spending every dollar as soon as it arrives. The rich plant theirs, letting time and compound growth turn them into something far greater than the original amount. The third habit, they build relationships long before they need them. In school, they tell you to keep your eyes on your own paper, avoid copying, and work alone. In the real world, success works very differently. The wealthy understand that much of life is built on networks. Connections that open doors, create opportunities, and spark ideas you could never reach on your own. They make a habit of noticing who's in the room, introducing themselves, finding common ground, and forming authentic bonds. And here's the important part. They don't do this because they need something immediately. They do it because relationships are like investments. They grow over time. Poorer mindsets often say it's not what you know, it's who you know. But the wealthy take it one step further. It's not just who you know, it's who knows you, trusts you, and respects you. And you don't earn that trust by constantly asking or taking. You earn it by giving your time, your energy, your genuine help without keeping score. That's how, when an opportunity comes up, your name is the one that gets mentioned in the right room. The fourth habit, they keep learning, voluntarily, intentionally, and for life. When school ends, most people close the book literally and figuratively and never open it again. They believe learning was something you had to do to pass exams, not something that fuels your growth forever. But the wealthy have a different philosophy. They are lifelong students. They read widely and often. They attend seminars, seek mentors, invest in coaching, and buy courses. They understand that the more valuable they become as a person, the more value they can give to others. And the more value they give, the more opportunities and wealth naturally come their way. I once met a wealthy man who told me he spent more money each year on books and personal development than he did on clothes. At the time, I thought that was strange. Now I understand your mind is the ultimate wardrobe. You can wear expensive fabric, but if your thoughts are outdated, your future will be too. Dress your mind well, and it will never go out of style. The fifth habit, they control their environment with deliberate intention. In school, you sit where you're told to sit, next to whomever the teacher assigns, surrounded by classmates you may or may not connect with. In life, however, the wealthy recognize the power of choice, especially the choice of who they spend their time with. They understand that the people around you influence your thoughts, your energy, your ambitions, and even your health. That's why they carefully select their circles. They surround themselves with people who lift their thinking, challenge their assumptions, inspire new ideas, and encourage their growth. Conversely, they distance themselves from those who drain energy, foster doubt, or encourage complacency. They understand an undeniable truth. You cannot fly with eagles if you continue scratching alongside chickens. Your income, happiness, and even your health are deeply intertwined with your environment. The rich treat their surroundings as a precious asset. They guard it, curate it, and nurture it because they know that the quality of their relationships and surroundings determines the quality of their lives. The sixth habit, they think in decades, not days. Most people live from paycheck to paycheck, constantly seeking the next short-term win, the next lucky break, or the next opportunity for instant gratification. The wealthy, however, see the long game. They plant seeds today knowing they may not reap the harvest for years. They start businesses that won't pay off immediately. They invest in property that may not peak until their children are grown. They build skills, write books, and create brands with patience and persistence, much like a farmer tending a field season after season, knowing the fruit will come in due time. By expanding their vision beyond the next weekend, they stop making impulsive, short-sighted decisions and instead make choices that compound over time. Financial, emotional, and spiritual wealth all come from this long-term perspective, an understanding that life rewards those who plan, nurture, and wait, rather than those who constantly chase quick results. Now, let me tell you something I wish I'd known earlier. These habits are not reserved for the chosen few. You don't have to be born into money to practice them, because wealth-building habits are more about behavior than about starting resources. I've seen people who grew up in the poorest neighborhoods adopt these principles and turn their lives around completely. You can be broke right now, yet still start valuing your time like it's gold because it is. You can be buried under debt and still begin learning about investments, not because you're ready to invest today, but because when the opportunity arrives, you'll already have the knowledge. You can be naturally shy, hesitant to speak up, and yet decide to build relationships one conversation at a time. These habits are not about where you are, they are about where you're headed. It's about adopting the mindset before the money comes. That's the secret. The habits create the wealth, not the other way around. But here's the challenge. Habits are like muscles. They don't grow just because you wish for them, the same way you can't build physical strength by simply reading a fitness magazine. They grow because you work them intentionally over and over again. You build them by practicing daily, even when you don't feel motivated. You build them when no one is clapping for you, when there's no instant reward, and when no one's watching to applaud your effort. In fact, the moments that matter most are the ones done in private, when it's just you against your old self. That's where the transformation happens. The repetition, the discipline, and the resilience, that's what forges the habit into your character. Like a muscle, if you stop using it, it weakens. If you push it too hard without rest, it breaks. But if you train it steadily, patiently, it becomes second nature. And once a habit is part of you, no circumstance can take it away. Some of you might say, Jim, if these habits are so powerful, why don't they teach them in school? And I'll tell you, schools teach what's safe, measurable, and easy to test. They teach subjects that fit into neat boxes, where answers can be marked right or wrong on a paper. But wealthy habits don't work that way. They're messy, unpredictable, deeply personal. They don't always have immediate results that can be graded with a red pen. You can't put discipline or vision into a multiple choice test. Plus, let's be honest, most of the teachers, bless their hearts, were never trained in these things themselves. They learned what they were taught, and most of them were taught to follow a traditional path, not to build wealth from scratch. You can't teach what you've never learned. And that's not their fault. It's just how the system works. If you want these habits, you have to go outside the system to get them. So here's my advice. Become your own teacher. Build your own curriculum for wealth, one that's tailored to the life you actually want to live. Don't wait for permission from a classroom or a professor to start learning. You can study the lives of people who have done exactly what you want to do. Read their books, not once, but over and over until the lessons sink into your bones. Listen to their talks while you're driving, cooking, or walking. Ask them questions if you ever get the chance to meet them in person. Model their footsteps, not to copy them entirely, but to understand the principles behind their choices. And then, when you've learned enough, start leaving your own footprints. Innovate, adapt, and improve. The wealth education you'll ever get is the one you design for yourself, based on your own goals, values, and vision for your future. And let me warn you, once you start practicing these habits, people will notice. You will stand out. And not everyone will celebrate that. Some will admire you and be inspired. They'll ask how you're doing it, and some will try to learn from you. But others will think you've changed, and they won't mean it as a compliment. They might say you're acting different, too ambitious, or not the same anymore. Some will even try to pull you back to the old way of living, where time is wasted, money is spent without a second thought, and the future is left to chance. They'll tempt you to skip the work, to relax your discipline, to just enjoy life the way they define it. But you can't let them. If you give in, you'll lose momentum. You must remember, not everyone who starts with you will walk with you to the finish line. Protect your habits the way you'd protect your most valuable treasure. Every rich person I've met had a turning point, a moment when they looked at their life and said, "Enough. I'm going to live differently." For some, it was a financial crisis. For others, it was a moment of clarity when they realized they were capable of more. For me, it was the day I realized I was working harder than ever and still broke. I saw that effort alone wasn't enough. It had to be the right kind of effort, backed by the right habits. That was my moment of decision, and I've never looked back. For you, maybe it's today. Maybe hearing these words is the nudge you've been waiting for. Maybe deep down you've known for a while that something has to change. The truth is, the moment you decide is the moment your life begins to shift. But you must decide and then act. Because without action, even the strongest decision fades away. So here's the invitation. Pick one habit, not all 6, just one. If you try to change everything at once, you'll overwhelm yourself and burn out. But if you take one habit and practice it every single day until it becomes part of who you are, you'll build real lasting change. Maybe it's waking up earlier. Maybe it's tracking your spending. Maybe it's reading for 30 minutes a day. Whatever it is, do it consistently until you don't have to think about it anymore. It's just how you live. Then, once it's locked in, add another habit, then another. That's how real transformation happens, not in giant leaps, but in small, deliberate steps that accumulate over time. Before you know it, you'll look back and realize you've completely changed the way you think, act, and live. Remember, you don't have to live like the majority. In fact, if you want extraordinary results, you must live differently than most people. The majority spend without tracking, work without planning, and live without vision. They leave their future to chance and hope something good happens. But the minority, the ones who choose the path less traveled, plan their future, guard their time, and build habits that lead them where they want to go. The choice is yours. Follow the crowd or follow your vision. And if you do choose the minority path, one day you'll look back and realize you're living a life that no classroom could have prepared you for. But life itself, the real teacher, will reward you for your discipline, your patience, and your persistence. Because at the end of the day, wealth isn't just about the money in your account. Money is simply a tool, a measure of value you've created and managed well. True wealth is about the person you've become through the process. It's about the mindset you've developed, the habits that shaped your decisions, and the freedom to live life on your own terms. Wealth means you can spend time with who you want, where you want, doing what you love. It means you have options, choices, and control over your own destiny. And all of that starts with the habits you decide to build today. And let me tell you, when you get there, you'll understand something powerful. The rich don't keep these habits a secret. They've been out in the open the whole time, available to anyone who cares to notice. The difference is most people aren't looking. They're distracted, too busy with entertainment, too impatient to see results. But once you start paying attention, you'll see the patterns everywhere. You'll see that wealth leaves clues, habits, routines, and disciplines practiced daily. They were there all along. You just had to learn to see them, and more importantly, to practice them until they became part of who you are.